Here's one I've been looking forward to doing for quite a while. The Meze 109 Pro. I don't know that there's a 109 that's not a Pro, but maybe there is. Reviewed a couple of the Meze in the past, the Empyrean and the Elite. This is going a bit down market compared to those at $799 MSRP, which is kind of an odd price point. I feel like a lot of manufacturers try to push close to that $500 to get grouped in with that, or they might as well push the ceiling of the $1,000 mark, $959.99, to sort of be in the under $1,000 category. So it's kind of sitting in a bit of a odd spot, but there's some other things in there. The Focal Clear, Audeze LCD2, Dan Clark, Aeon 2 Open. So there's some very healthy competition, some good neighbors in that space. As with all the Meze stuff, the build is just exceptional. Like their design choices, their materials selection, just the execution, the production of the product. It's got a lot of the sort of craft elements of a more, boutique, artisanal, hand-built headphone, but produced with very modern manufacturing techniques in a way that is just pretty much impossible to replicate in a smaller hand-built environment. The compression strap's really nice, really responsive. Compression strap? I don't know if that's the right term. Anyway, the thing that goes on your head and stretches works well. The clamp is nice. They're just they're very light, despite the little bit of wood trim. And the sort of metal. They're very light. They're incredibly comfortable. This little micro suede on the pads is very nice. This more beautiful detail inside the cup there. They're just gorgeous. They're just great to look at. And they're great to listen to. I really, really enjoyed this pair of headphones, especially taking into consideration the price tag. I think these provide just a phenomenal listening experience that to me outpaces the dollars for sure. I get my one gripe out of the way right away, which is the connection point for the cable. So they're using a 3.5 millimeter standard connection, which is wonderful, but they've recessed it into this crevasse here, this channel, and they, of course, their cable fits and has literally slim, little material around the jack. But of course, if you own any other headphone cables that terminate in 3.5 millimeter connections, well, you are SOL, because none of them are going to fit. So there's my design gripe, but obviously it looks great. Love the little metal trim on that. So the bass is great. It's deep. It's lush. It feels really nice. I think these headphones, they just swing. They're just cool. You just want to hang out with them. You don't get analytical listening to these. Like, these are a headphone that you really dig into the tunes and just sort of, get into the swing of things. What I'd call, like, in the speaker world, the super tweeter region, the sort of bright toppest, tippity tip top sort of region, sometimes is like a little overemphasized for me, in the way that it sort of happens with dynamic headphones sometimes, where they're like trying to do that balance of giving you the depth and breadth of bass while also trying to still remain sort of crisp and clear. And sometimes that little upper region just gets a bit exaggerated. And for me, I think with these, it's just a smidge over energized in some occasions, but a minor gripe. They're very spatial. They're very dimensional. They've got kind of that depth thing going on, reminding me a little bit of the ZMF Atrium, in that you get the sense of one ring of sound that's very close into your head, and then another ring of sound that's a little further, and another ring of sound that's a little further. So almost like imagining set pieces moving further and further away from you. And so vocals can be very close in and intimate, but then they also sort of trail further in, further out in space. So they have like a depth and a dimensionality to them, and at the same time you might be picking up on a stand-up bass line further out, or some percussion sort of further out. And so you get this listening experience where you kind of get to take a lot in, because there is that sense of separation and because the instruments stand on their own. Not necessarily like in an imaging thing where you'd point like out into space and pick the instrument, but just in terms of like depth from your head. And did that make any sense? Probably not. Anyway, they're very dimensional, and they've got a nice space to them. They're not hugely exaggerated, but I think that is one of the rewarding aspects of these. They're not as fast as some other headphones. I had the HD660 V2s here at the same time, and I was kind of going back and forth between them. And those just have like a crispness and an energy to them, especially with percussion, that like you are not going to get with this headphone. It's not to say these are sluggish in any way. It's just when you hear a headphone that is really strong in that area, you can recognize that that's not necessarily the key strength to this headphone. But in every other dimension, I would rather listen to these than the 660. They just speak to me so much more. Just such an inviting and engaging sound that's just really rewarding and satisfying to listen to. These are great. They're super easy to drive. I don't know if I mentioned that. They're like 112 dB, 40 ohms, so they're like, you could totally rock these with a portable or your phone or your laptop. Obviously, they do respond to a certain degree to various amplifiers and take on some of that signature, but they're colored. They have their tone, they have their presentation, and I like it. It's one that I like. It's musical, it's enjoyable. It's just, yeah, I've used all the same words that I always use to talk about something that I like. So I guess we'll call that good. Meze 109. Yep. Signcraft. Signing out.